You're still watching the Eastern Business Report right here on the Afia Business Morning, and I am Marvelous Apuamaga. 65 years after independence, the Southeast remains one of Nigeria's most entrepreneurial regions. From its pre-independence strengths in trade, farming, and education to the devastation of the Civil War, the region's economy has seen both highs and deep setbacks. Today, as we reflect on 65 years of history, we ask, has the Southeast regained its momentum? What lessons can we learn from its journey? And where does the biggest opportunity lie for the future? Joining me on the Eastern Business Report this morning to answer this is Dr. Stanislaus Ukeje, a development economist and a policy analyst. You're welcome on the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Marvelous.
How are you doing today? Happy Independence Day.
Say that again.
I said Happy Independence Day.
Well, yeah, Happy Independence too.
So the theme for this year's Independence is all hands on deck. What do you think about this? I'd like to get your thoughts. Do you think all hands are on deck in the country?
Well, I responded Happy Independence because you said so. Huh? But as a child, less than 5 years, in infant class 1, I received a cup, a plastic cup, and a flag on Nigeria's Independence Day in 1960. None of my children, and they're all, grown up, had ever received such symbol. And today, the government that created, that announced the holiday, arranged a parade of the forces, cancelled it. I think it shows you where we are. So, well, but we still are happy that we are alive because the dead do not rejoice on it. Yeah, but that's how it is.
All right, let's bring it down to the Southeast, Dr. Stan. Let's start from the present. 65 years after independence, how would you describe the Southeast economy today?
Well, what you call Southeast, is a concept that was created by, I think, Emeka Ojukwu, Alex Ekweme, and a few others during the Abacha regime when there was a constitutional conference. But part of the challenges that we have in Nigeria is that we're either afraid of ourselves or ashamed of ourselves. England is the land of the Angles, the English people. Scotland, the land of the Scots. Wales, the land of the Wales. Ireland, France. Actually, Germany is called La Allemagne by the French, the land of the Germans. French land. We are Igbos. That's what actually Southeast refers to. But people are afraid to say they are Igbo land. So, but if we watch English football, German league, French league, why are we afraid of saying Igbo league or Igbo football team or Igbo? But in terms of where we are, progress can be on a multiple lane. When I was a child, things like corned beef, tinned fish, tinned milk, they were rare. But most people had food, the food that we produced. Food like okpa, not the one that is already made, but the seed, the cultivation. It was widely cultivated in Achi, Udi, Ezago. It was available. Palm wine was available. Akede was available. Achicha was, Ede from Ede. They were available. They may not look elegant, but they were food. It was available. Now, you'll find that a lot of people with money, they may come to your station here and say they are celebrating New Yam Festival, but they never cultivated any yam. It's yam from Benue. But when I was a child, there was ceremonies like that. And people actually harvest their yam and then use it for the ceremony. So in terms of food independence, we have moved back, seriously back. In terms of housing, we have better quality houses now, like with cement, or like the thatch and the grass houses we had that time. But the number of people who do not have house at all, including thatch house, now are more. You follow? We now have better houses, more than we used to have in terms of number. But when everybody was living in a hut, everybody had a house. Now that we are using cement, corrugated roof, painting, marble, we have more of such houses. But many, many more do not have houses, because those who do not have houses now don't aspire to have a hut. They feel ashamed to have a hut. Some don't even know how to build a hut. Many rich people among us, among the Igbo people, hire Fulani people now to build a hut in their big compound where they, celebrate, and I say they're doing suya. There are no Igbos who know how to make thatch and grass houses now. So Fulani people or Hausa people come here to do it. In terms of education, education is, I consider it knowledge for life chances. Knowledge for life chances. We have more people with international knowledge, like I'm speaking English now. The first time I went to Europe, and the way I was speaking English, some Europeans thought I was an American. And they even thought I was an American soldier, because there are American soldiers stationed in Germany, Italy, all those countries as part of NATO. Because I didn't look afraid, and they felt not only an American, it must be an American soldier. I was young at that time. But in terms of knowledge for life chances, yes, we have many people who are medical doctors, nurses, engineers. They are abroad, computer scientists, earning money that is maybe big by volume. But in terms of life chances about our environment, I've mentioned housing now. These Israelites now we talk about as Jews, they didn't live in marble houses. In fact, when they were crossing over to the promised land, the promise was that they will live in houses they did not build, whose foundations were made by God. In other words, they will live in gated cities. They didn't live in cities before. They were living in tents.
Yes, so Dr. Stan, you've mentioned, you talked about food independence, food security. You said in those days, we were farming and, trade. The economy was thriving in trade, farming. You also talked about housing. You said now we have better houses, but not everyone can afford to own a house in this region. How did that foundation shape today's business culture? First instance, why do you think that is? What do you think is the reason for all you've stated now? And would you say the region is still benefiting from agriculture that was once our form of, or our way of surviving back then?
Mass production is what is recommended in economics as to increase output. When everybody was producing, it was mass production, but by individuals. The mass production that we now learned in the school where we attended for education is mass production with machines owned by one person, which is not possible. You have to have a large acreage of land, then you have machines, and then the land itself has to be arable. We don't have those things. So many, many, many more people are out of agriculture, not just because they don't want to farm, but almost all work requires social setting. Your name is marvelous. You have handsome boys here working with you. You have Alex. You have everybody. If you were working alone here, you will not come every day. You follow? When our people were producing much food, people went to farm in a group. Everybody farming his own. talking to each other. Now, the few people who are left in the villages are left to go to farm lonely. They don't want it. Many young people would rather stay in town and hang with their uncle or their cousin rather than go to the farm alone. Secondly, there's the threat of herders who occupy the land. And the government is not doing anything about it because we have exchanged British colonialism for domestic, local colonialism. And British colonialism was efficient comparatively than the domestic colonialism we are experiencing.
Yeah, talking about British colonialism, after the colonization of Nigeria, there were potentials. People saw Nigeria as, a country that had huge potentials out of all the African countries that are available now. Now, the Eastern region recorded significant economic growth before the Nigerian Civil War of 1967, but the war devastated the economy. We saw what happened. Everything shattered, infrastructure, roads, businesses, everything was brought down. How would you describe that stage for Southeasterners? And what long-term impact would you say that the war had on the Eastern economy?
Yeah, war is not ordinary fighting. We had the tiger here when we were children. You wouldn't know about him. He used to fight, but it was regulated fighting. He was a boxer. But to have war, you require to hate the person you are fighting. You follow? If people fought the Igbos out of hatred, you don't expect them to let them stand up again. There's a man whose funeral I attended on Saturday, Dr. Charles Nwachukwu from Sudan. His father worked in the coal mine. He attended CKC. He attended College of Agriculture, Umudike. From there, he got a scholarship to go to University of Nigeria to study agricultural engineering. From there, from the University of Nigeria, he went to University of Manitoba in Canada. Then went to University of Utah to study water engineering, water and soil engineering. He came back, lectured there, went to University of, Federal Polytechnic Bauchi, came back, worked in IMT. You can see the progress. Today, have you heard of anybody who studied agriculture that is doing anything? During those days, when he went to College of Agriculture, Umudike, the government employed some people who attended that school as agric assistants. They went from village to village assisting farmers. Today, the government doesn't invest in such things. What you will see is that the government will buy rice, rebag it, put the picture of the governor or the president there, and say that they are doing agricultural celebration, that they are showing off output. Like we had during Buhari's regime, piles of rice. Now, where is the rice? So when I talk about colonial rule, the colonial rule was more efficient. It was under colonial rule that they set up things like Iboariam, the farm settlements. Because they knew that agriculture requires social relationship. If people live together and you bring inputs and technology to them, they can work happily. You set up schools for their children, put a health center. But now, no government does that. So we have been ruined. There was the Eastern Nigerian Development Corporation that was set up by the Eastern, but it started under colonial rule. It continued to do these things that I was talking about. Schools were set up. When I attended school, Roman Catholic, Church Mission Society, all those people. But you cannot open a school, including a private one, without approval. If you set up on an approved school, government will not come to inspect it. The people there will not be allowed to take standard 6 exam or WAEC. But now, you can have a flat, a block of flats. One flat will be a school. The person owning it is a government official or related to a government official. So the schools are not inspected. They are not delivering knowledge. The people are just going to school and coming back like Eze. Eze goes to school. So we have been ruined because we were following a different path. Our economy was not flamboyant. You know, government did very little that it can do and did it well. Throughout my primary school, from standard 1 to elementary 6, I paid £1, 13 shillings, and 4 pence. That was what I paid. The government matched that grant so that the Catholic mission could give us education. But now the government says is paying for everything. But when you go to school, children, in fact, one child in my house, the teacher in Independence Primary School, seized the boy's shoe because he didn't pay for, I think they said, the book they have for scoring students. You know?
Yeah, all right, Dr. Stan. Our time is fast spent. Now, looking back at 65 years of ups and down, what do you think the government should do to, bring back the economy? You said we have been ruined. How can the government fix this? The federal, the states, and the region.
Well, the first condition for government doing anything must be a sense of solidarity. A sense of solidarity. Anybody who does not accept you or accept one another, they cannot work for the interest of people. You can see people in government, they will be driving like 40 vehicles at a time.
So you're saying there's no unity amongst the Igbos?
Yes, they need to have, I wouldn't say sympathy, they should have a sense of solidarity. Sense of solidarity. When you set up your studio, you make sure everything is looking colorful. If you are dressed well, your manager or production manager will say, yes, good. But if that person does not have a sense of solidarity with you, if you don't dress well, you say, go ahead. So that people will now be calling, say, who is this poorly dressed person? So that you will be removed. That is what happens. If some people say Igbos should go from Lagos, Igbos should go from Kaduna, Igbos should go, that doesn't mean that there's a governance of solidarity. What they want is slaves, people who will come and say, yes, what you are doing to my people is good. Then they will give them crumbs. But the Bible says that there was a rich man who was dressed in purple and had so much food. Then there was a beggar in his gates who had nothing, who was praying to take the crumbs from only the dogs licked his. But in the end, when the roll was called up yonder, the poor man, Lazarus, was with Abraham, while the big man was somewhere else, and now begging Abraham to. He thinks that the Lazarus was still a poor man. Send him to bring water, or send him to. No, it was too late.
All right, Dr. Stan, thank you for joining us. Our time is fast spent. Thank you for joining us on the Eastern Business Report.
Thank you.
And that's the much we can take today on the Eastern Business Report. Until I see you tomorrow for another edition of the Afia Business Morning, I am Marvelous Apuamaga. Happy Independence Day once again.